Welcome back to CS50 course. We're talking about Python. Today we have two good news. The first one is this is the last project in week 0. The second good news is this is gonna be really easy. So without further ado, let's get started.
This is CS50.
In today's tutorial, we're gonna speak about tip calculator. It's a nice thing to give a tip. Some people, they like to give tips, but they don't like math. So we're gonna help them out. Here, the project says in the United States, it's customary to leave a tip for your server after dining in a restaurant, typically an amount equal to 15% of the bill, typically an amount equal to 15% or more of your meal's cost. Not to worry though, we have written a tip calculator for you below. In this tutorial or problem set, we have most of the program written for us, but missing some parts. Let's get to know what is missing. Well, we have written most of a tip calculator for you. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to implement two functions. These two functions, which are dollars to float and percent to float. This is the first function, dollars to float, which should accept a string as input, which is here, dollar to float, the input, how much was the meal, and this input is argument D, formatted as $sign and a 2-digit number with a floating point, wherein each square is a decimal digit. Remove the leading S dollar. So this is our first task, to remove the S dollar from the input or from the argument of the function and return the amount as a float. So this is task number 2. So task number 1, we have to remove the S $sign from the input, and second task is to convert the output of this input to a float. For instance, given $15 or 50 with a $sign as input, it should return 50 without the $sign. The second challenge is percent to float, which is function number 2, which takes one argument, P, or percentage or percent, which should accept as a string. As we all know, input takes, or the output of the input is a string, and also the input will be a string, which is 15%. Let's see, accept a string as input, formatted as 2 digits plus the percentage sign, wherein each square is a decimal digit. Remove the trailing percentage sign. So this is task number 1. We're going to remove the percentage sign from the argument or from the output of this input of this function and return the percentage as a float. So two tasks. Task number 1, we will remove the percentage sign. Task number 2, we will return a float. For instance, if the user has given us 15% or 15 plus the percentage sign as an input, it should return 0.15. 0.15 means 100 divided by 15. So let's check that out. Before we check that out, assume that the user will input values in the expected format. So we don't have to correct anything. We'll expect that the user will enter the amounts as agreed here in dollars or in percentage. So let's move on to our pie chart. First things first, here the to-do is, we're going to check again. We're going to take the input from the user and we are going to remove the S dollar and convert the output to a float. So here we're going to say that here we're going to assume that D is going to be the argument or the input, which will be here for this function. So first thing, we're going to remove the $sign. So D equals to D dot, how to remove? Yes, exactly. Replace the $sign with, correct, with nothing. And we're going to return the D, but as a float. So return float of D itself. We're going to do the same thing here in percentage. So P will equal, P is the argument of the function itself, which also will be an input when we call main. So P will equal to P dot, yes, exactly, replace, but in this time we're going to replace what? The percentage sign with what? Exactly, with nothing. That means we're going to delete it. But here we're going to return something a little bit different. First of all, we're going to convert the argument to a float. So float of P, but we're going to divide by 100. Let's see the console. So if we say here P equals to 15%, it's a string, then we say P equals P dot replace the percentage sign with nothing, means delete it. When we call P, it will be 15. Then P equals to float of P. So when we call P again, so now it's 15.0, which is a float. Then P equals P divided by 100. When we call P again, yes, that's 0.15, which is what is needed here. If it's 15%, it's going to be 0.15. Let's check that out. We will call the program Python of tip.py. Assume that the meal costs $50 and the percentage is 15%. Then we will leave 7.50. Assuming that the meal costs, let's say $100, and we want to leave 10%, so we're gonna leave $10. Back to the site. This is the demo. So if the meal costs $50, $50, as we've seen here, $50, the tip percentage is 15%, we're gonna leave 7.5. So 7.5. We have to go and open the code space in CS50. I already created the directory tab, and then I created a tab.py. As we can see, the instructions: make directory tab, then change directory to tab, then code tab.py. And here we have some other examples. Let's check them out. If the meal costs $100, percentage, the tab percentage is 18%. Let's find out. So let's run the program again. The meal costs $100. We want to leave 18%, so we're gonna leave $18. Yes, correct. So if the meal costs $15 and we want to leave 25% of the tip of the meal as a tip, so the meal costs $15 and we want to leave 15%, so we're gonna leave $3.75 exactly. So let's copy the code, copy all and paste it here. And as we know, before we move on, we have to check 50 before submitting the program. We have done a good job. If you've seen everything is green, yeah, it's like poetry. If you've seen everything is green, if you've seen everything is green, then it's time to submit 50. You'll get the prompt for the academic honesty. Then you write yes or Y and enter. Then your problem set will be submitted. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Conditionals in week 1. Thank you. Take care.